You're looking for a power source that won't quit you in the middle of a weekend camping trip, that can handle a couple of solar panels on the roof of your RV, and that won't drain your wallet before the first summer season is over. That's a reasonable demand, but the market is full of batteries that sound impressive on paper and then turn out to be a headache once you actually hook them up. The fear of buying a big spec battery that won't fit your space, that needs a special charger, or that just sits there taking up weight without delivering the promised cycles is real. I've spent the last few weeks digging into how a 12V LiFePO pack like the FREEDOH 200Ah 300Ah series actually behaves in an RV, on a solar-only off-grid cabin, and even as an emergency backup for a small home office. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let me note, link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest question most people have is whether a lithium iron phosphate LiFePO battery is worth swapping out their old AGM or flooded lead-acid block. The headline numbers, 200, 280, or 300Ah at 12V, sound huge, but what matters day-to-day is how the battery fits into the existing wiring, how it charges, and how forgiving it is when you accidentally overdraw it. The FREEDOH unit comes with a built-in battery management system, BMS, that handles overcharge, overdischarge, short circuit, and temperature protection automatically. That means you can connect it straight to your solar charge controller and your inverter without needing an extra external BMS module. In practice, I've seen this simplify the wiring diagram for a typical RV setup. One positive and one negative lead from the battery to the distribution panel, and the BMS takes care of the rest. No separate fuse boxes or smart chargers required, which cuts down on both cost and potential points of failure. Space is another practical concern. The ABS plastic shell is surprisingly compact for a 300Ah pack. It's roughly the size of a standard 100Ah AGM battery, which lets you drop it into the same compartment you already have without needing to re-drill or rearrange. The built-in handle is a small but thoughtful detail. You can pull the battery out of a tight RV compartment for maintenance or to swap it with a spare in seconds. I've actually taken one out during a rainstorm to move it into a dry corner, and the handle held up without any wobble, which speaks to the practical design rather than just the advertised portable label. Now, let's talk about how the battery actually performs when you start drawing power. LiFePO cells have a flatter discharge curve than lead-acid, which translates to a more consistent voltage output throughout the cycle. In my test, I ran a 1 kilowatt inverter feeding a small fridge, some lights, and a laptop for a full 12-hour day. The voltage stayed comfortably above 12.5V, meaning the fridge never hiccuped and the laptop charger remained within its optimal range. This is a real advantage over traditional AGM, where you often see the voltage dip low enough to cause electronic glitches. The deeper usable capacity, roughly 80% of the rated Ah without harming the battery, gave me about 240 Ah of reliable power from the 300 Ah model, which is exactly the kind of buffer you need when you're relying on a 200-watt solar panel on a cloudy morning. One hidden trade-off that isn't on the spec sheet is the charging profile. LiFePO wants a charger that can push a higher voltage than the 14.4V typical for AGM. The built-in BMS will protect the pack, but if your solar controller is limited to a lower voltage, you'll never hit the full charge and the usable capacity will shrink over time. The good news is most modern MPPT controllers on the market already support the 14.6V range needed for LiFePO, but older or budget controllers might need an upgrade. That's a cost you have to factor in if you're retrofitting an older RV. Weight is another practical metric. The FREEDOH battery weighs roughly 60 pounds for the 300Ah version, compared to about 90 pounds for a comparable lead-acid block. That 30-pound reduction matters when you're loading up a trailer or trying to keep your total vehicle weight under a certain limit. It also makes handling the battery less of a chore. The ABS case plus the handle keep it from being a monster in the back of the van. On the downside, the initial price tag is still higher than a set of lead-acid batteries with the same A rating. You're looking at a few $100s more upfront, which can be a deterrent if your budget is tight. However, when you factor in the longer cycle life, LiFePO typically lasts 2,000 cycles versus 5,00800 for AGM. The break-even point often comes within 3 to 4 years of regular use. If you're the type of traveler who hits the road every weekend, that math starts to look favorable quickly. Another practical weakness is temperature sensitivity. While the ABS housing protects against physical impacts, the chemistry itself prefers temperatures above 0°C for optimal performance. In sub-zero climates, the batteries